Hi, I'm Matt Lairdy. I'm the president and founder of Cinch IoT. We make smart buildings a cinch. I want to just take a few minutes and give you an introduction to our technology, the benefits for customers, the benefits for partners, just tell you a bit about where we came from and where we're going. So I said we make smart buildings a cinch. I launched Power over Ethernet at Cisco Systems back in the early 2000s, and ever since then I've been working on smart buildings, smart cities, and the smart grid, trying to help customers innovate buildings in a way that makes their buildings more productive, comfortable, healthy, and safe while saving energy along the way. Throughout that journey, I've done a lot with AC controls, I've done a lot with Power over Ethernet controls, and during that time, we figured out there's actually a better way to do this. And that's what Cinch is all about. We solve $100 billion a year problem. And that problem is we build buildings the same way we have for about 100 years. And yet we need to move into the future, which is really about agentic AI, making buildings run autonomously. And so there's a better way to do it than we're doing today. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. So Cinch has the first UL approved two-wire smart building platform that does lighting, telemetry, emergency lighting, and gets the system ready for agentic AI. It's a great way to go when you're looking at building out a smart building. We'll tell you a bit about that. The challenge today, if I look at AC systems, that's the way buildings have been built for many, many years. We still need AC. But when we look at lighting and the Internet of Things, AC systems require a data overlay network to control them and to add sensors. So it's a technology that's worked. It's worked fairly well, but it tends to be expensive and complicated. An alternative is using networking for low voltage lighting. And the challenge there is that the IT industry and the electrical industry don't necessarily work together during design and construction of buildings. Electricians are very comfortable and very good at hanging lights and running wires. The IT industry is very good at running sensors and that sort of thing, but electricians are typically involved in the construction and deployment of lighting platforms. So Power over Ethernet, it's a great technology for lots of different applications, but when it comes to lighting, it tends to be very complicated and expensive, and difficult for getting the electricians involved. Both of those systems there's still a lot of work to do to get them ready for agentic AI. We'll talk about that in a moment. So why now? Why Cinch? Why today? Well, obviously you can't go through the news without seeing information about all kinds of inflation. Data centers are growing very, very rapidly. It's a great opportunity for us. We can solve a lot of problems in data centers, but for everybody else, data centers are soaking up lots of metal, both copper, steel, silver. They're using a lot of metal for their construction. They're also using a lot of labor and a lot of energy. So that's driving up prices in other projects. So we've got a price expansion in a lot of these markets. There's also regulatory pressure for clients to run their facilities a lot more efficiently. So you have local law 97 in New York, you have California Title 24, DLC, and then there's all the smart building standards and whether it's LEED, well, reset. Clients want to run their buildings more effectively, and they need the tools to do that. So when we look at a legacy system using AC, it's very difficult to make it kind of meet the needs of modern requirements. Same thing with Power over Ethernet. So when I look at these different industries, these different markets, we have one platform that provides a lot of benefits for different clients. The benefits for buildings, we provide a really terrific lighting system. We also have options in IoT, Internet of Things, for sensors, whether it's temperature, humidity, and so on. And then for data centers, we provide options for lighting and then thermal monitoring. So it's one system, but it plays in these different markets very, very nicely. So just to kind of summarize, Cinch sits between the electrical industry and the IT industry. We provide power for lights and telemetry, and we also provide the data to be backhauled to the AI cloud. So it's sitting somewhere in the middle. It's really optimized for electricians to install, but at the same time provides the data and security and scalability that's required by IT to run facilities more effectively. The final word on this is that, when you put in a Cinch system, it's easy to install, it's easy to design, easy to install, easy to operate. But more importantly for the end customer, the first cost of the system is lower than a traditional system, and the operating expense is an even better story. Traditionally, when you put in a system, you have the initial construction. Well, we end up being lower cost because we eliminate a lot of copper and steel, and we also eliminate labor when a system is first installed. So we're saving customers anywhere from 20 to 30% on first installation. But the story is great when it comes to the operating expense. In lighting systems today, customers, they have expenses around having to replace ballasts and drivers that will die because of dirty electricity. We centralize the power. We provide clean, stable electric power out to the lights. That means these micro drivers are designed to last over 3 decades. So you eliminate the expense of replacing drivers. So that's a big expense for a lot of businesses. The other big expense that gets avoided is emergency light testing. And the contract we see with a lot of customers, they end up spending as much on the emergency light testing every month as they do on their electric bill. So it ends up being a pretty big, significant cost. So when you combine those two eliminated expenses, your operating expense is extremely, it's much lower for a Cinch system versus a traditional system. So we essentially build head-end controllers that provide data and communications to microdrivers. The microdrivers carry the metadata that enables us to monitor how the space is operating, provide very, very beautiful fine-grained control of lighting, and then we also work with third-party peripherals, wall switches and sensors that are easy to put onto the system. All of the data that's backhauled by the network is then passed to our cloud for use in different applications, whether it's wayfinding, scene control, and so on. And depending on the applications, there's a lot of different uses. Ultimately, what this does is provides a future-proof backbone for a client. So if you imagine sensors you're going to need down the road, we can add them. We've got a communication bus plus up to 100 watts per circuit that makes it really easy to add sensors anywhere in the building. We're just leveraging that lighting control plane, that lighting network in the background. From just a quick look at our products, we have controllers there on the left. We have 4 basic flavors, a 16 and 32 port. We also have those versions with an emergency UPS for UL 924 based lighting. So you can make any light in a building an emergency light. By default, that's how they're going to work when connected to the box. But you can also use software and move light depending on where your building inspector or fire marshal wants you to have more or less egress lighting. You can do that in software. We also make the microdrivers that power the lights. We can program those either constant current or constant voltage, and it gives us the flexibility to work with thousands of different types of lights. The product in the middle is a quick connect. That's for your installers who want to be able to pull a multi-conductor 8-pair cable out into a space. They can fan it out from the quick connect, and there's an LED light on board that gives them an indication that they've correctly wired the system, and they don't have to go back to the head end to troubleshoot. If they get a green light, they keep going. The micro hub is a device that allows third-party wall switches and sensors to work on this system. So if your designer says, hey, we have a particular style or color of wall switch and sensor, that's fine. We can make it work and bring it into the platform very easily. The final list there is sensors. We're launching a CO2, well, it's a multi-function sensor. It's temperature, humidity, CO2, VOC. We can add some other sensors to it as well, but that's the basic sensor pack so that you can accommodate well building or lead or whatever the client requires in terms of space sensing and air quality monitoring. The sensor to the right there is a thermal sensor, an infrared thermal sensor that's really intended for use for bus bars, switch gear, whether it's a data center or high rise, where you need to have continuous monitoring to make sure electrical transmission gear doesn't overheat. It ensures that you have visibility to better and more effectively manage your facility in real time. And the final piece is all this data that we're collecting goes back into our cloud or your cloud, hosted in our cloud or your premise. It allows us to ingest real-time data. And when we apply business rules from agentic AI, we can start to make better decisions about how the facility operates. We do things like preventative maintenance and alerts and alarms, depending again on what you're monitoring. There's also an API to third-party tools. So if you've already got a visualization tool that you want to use, the plugin is there and ready to go. So that's really just a quick introduction to Cinch. We've spent 20 years understanding customer problems in the smart building space, and we've built a solution that's much easier to use, much more cost effective than traditional systems. Lower CapEx, lower OpEx, energy efficient. And because it's 2 wires and low voltage class 2, it's safe to operate. So that just makes it really easy to design and install. And of course, finally, it makes that backbone future-proof. So if there's other solutions or other sensors you want to add to the system, we can do that quickly. Thank you for taking time just to listen to this introduction about Cinch. If you need any kind of help or support, feel free to reach out to us. The support at Cinch IoT email is the best way to reach the team. We're happy to talk to you more about specific applications and problems that you're having that we can help you solve. With that, thank you very much for taking the time to listen. I appreciate it.